Okay, thank you. Good evening and welcome. This is the meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee meeting. It's Thursday, July 20th, 2023. This is being held in the Pioneer Valley Regional School Library and online at www.facebook/BNC Television and www.PVRSDK12.org. It is 6:03. And I will call the meeting to order. Before we get started, I do want to just mention that there were a couple of errors on the posted agenda, which will change things up a bit tonight. We did not post that there would be a vote on the school resource officer's position, so we will be discussing that, but we won't be taking a vote on the position tonight. We will be scheduling a special meeting, I believe, on Tuesday.
And this is my error. This is not a school committee error, so my apologies to our community. On Tuesday, next Tuesday, 6 o'clock online, the school committee will hold a meeting and we'll take the vote at that time. So we will post that tomorrow morning.
And we will also be voting, I think, on some of the items that we're discussing in the executive session.
Yes.
This evening. So we will not be returning after the executive session for a vote. So I'd like to open with citizens' comments. We welcome citizens to speak their mind on any item that's of interest to the school committee. We allot 3 minutes per person. We typically have 20 minutes total as part of our agenda. If we have many comments or many people who want to comment, I'd be willing to allow up to 30 minutes at the beginning of the meeting, and then I would consider opening up citizens' comments again at the end of the meeting. So we have, do we have the sign-up sheet? Oh, yes, sorry. Mm-hmm. First person up is Debbie Delabriere. Is Debbie present? I don't see. So Rachel Dowd is next. So we'll also be, because we had so many people sign up tonight, we're going to be keeping time. So you'll see the 1 minute warning.
Okay.
So thank you, Rachel. And can you state your name and then where you live?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is this? Okay. My name is Rachel Dowd, and I live in Greenfields.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you're super close.
Super close.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
And Rachel is also a staff member at PVRS.
Yes. As I said earlier, my name is Rachel Dowd, and I am the school librarian here at Pioneer and a member of the school counseling and culture team. I would like to express my concern about the proposed SRO position. I am fully in support of building more community in our district and creating safe school environments for students. However, I do not feel that having a police officer in schools is an appropriate way to achieve these goals. The presence of a police officer in schools could have an adverse effect on the mental health and safety of marginalized students. A Center for Public Integrity analysis of U.S. Department of Education data from all 50 states plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico found that school policing disproportionately affects students with disabilities, Black children, and in some states, Native American and Latino children. It was also shown that Black students were referred to law enforcement at more than twice the rate of white students. This is a racial justice issue. At Pioneer, there is growing momentum surrounding restorative justice. Restorative justice focuses on building relationships and working to repair harm and seek accountability in a non-punitive way. Charity Cat and I had the incredible opportunity to work with a group from FERCOG to offer restorative justice training for student leaders. Students bravely opened themselves up and helped us come up with tangible ways we can work to shift the culture toward one of building connections, healing, and deepening relationships with one another. The district faculty will also be participating in an RJ training at the beginning of the school year. I am very grateful our district is choosing to invest in this initiative. Many schools who are using restorative justice programs see a reduction in suspensions, disciplinary issues, mental health issues, and law enforcement involvement in schools. I fear that hiring an SRO would undermine our RJ efforts. Although SROs and community policing are a growing trend, there is almost no data to suggest that this keeps communities and schools safer or builds relationships. In fact, there have been numerous incidents of SROs in the U.S. further escalating situations at schools and harming students. The way we choose to invest our limited resources speaks to our values as a school district. I suggest we invest money in hiring a restorative justice coordinator. I'd be happy to talk with you more about the Restorative Relationships Program through AmeriCorps that other public schools in Western Mass have participated in. I would also be happy to share some resources surrounding the transformative possibilities of restorative justice. I know we all want students to feel safe at school and able to truly thrive. I hope we can have a meaningful conversation prior to making the decision to hire an SRO, as that would deeply impact faculty, staff, and most importantly, students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Carly Duclos? Oh, okay. Kat Freeman?
Okay, how am I doing?
Great.
Great.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kat Freeman, and I'm the school adjustment counselor here at Pioneer. This is my 3rd year at Pioneer, and I feel so grateful to have landed in such a warm, connective, supportive, and caring community. The staff here are wonderful and creative collaborators, and everyone's care for our incredible students is the glue that holds this school together. Over the course of my time here, I have gotten to work with so many amazing students across grades 7 through 12 and with many different challenges. Struggles with peers, self-esteem, disordered eating, depression, anxiety, and questions around who they are and who they want to be in the world. Questions we have all asked ourselves as we've grown into who we are now around what's important to us and what we value. What I see underneath this proposal to bring a school police officer back to Pioneer is a desire to create a safe and connected community. The focus in the job description is really on community engagement and involvement. And I believe that instead of increasing policing at our school, the way to build a connected and therefore safer community is by investing in our relationships with each other, investing in strengthening students' sense of belonging, and helping students to feel comfortable and confident about who they are. As a part of the Brave Schools program, which we've been able to participate in this year, we have learned from former violent extremists about how they were drawn in to violent organizing groups by a desire for connection and belonging. We know that most people who become school shooters experience disconnection and isolation. What will help keep our community and our students safe is strengthening the relationships between all staff and students, not bringing a new police officer into our school. As we have all seen, mental health challenges and diagnosis have been on the rise in recent years, as young people are struggling with the challenges of technology, COVID, and living in this world moment. As a mental health professional and social worker, I have worked as part of a cross-disciplinary team of adults to find ways to help our students feel as supported and cared for as possible. Instead of investing in increased policing, we can continue to grow our school's commitment to offering supportive mental health services through investing in restorative justice and community building. Restorative justice is a model that centers connection and repair instead of isolating students. Through restorative justice programming, we can support students with love and with accountability, helping them grow communication and relational skills that will serve them throughout their lives. I want to end by bringing us back to the notion of values and belonging. This is an important moment to center what we value as a community: relationship building, knowing one another, and creating spaces of care where all of our young people can feel safe and seen. I look forward to working with you all and moving us toward that vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Charity?
Hi, is this good? So good evening, everyone. My name is Charity O'Connor. I am the middle school guidance counselor here at Pioneer. I live in Greenfield. Though I am a new member to the faculty as of this year, I have long been a PVRS supporter. As many of you know, my partner is Nikki Pullen, who has been here for almost 10 years. And so during this time, kind of on the sidelines and now in it with you all, I have observed one of Pioneer's greatest strengths to be its commitment to relationship building. So echoing my predecessors here, I am thinking certainly about the lasting and close-knit relationships built among faculty, staff, and students, but also among community members as well. I feel like the love and support in this community runs very deep and is very tangible. And I think that's why I have so many concerns about the possibility of bringing a school resource officer back to Pioneer. In my experience, these decisions are often made from a place of deep care and also deep fear. And I really understand that fear. I think, school shootings are alarmingly common, and yet I would caution us against making this decision out of fear. We have the unique opportunity to embrace a more just and humane way of being, all while teaching our students invaluable skills for conflict resolution, harm repair, and community building. Restorative justice is a buzzword, yes, but when implemented with fidelity, I think it has the ability to transform school culture from one of punitivity to one of growth and healing. Personally, as a member of our school counseling team, there have been times where the school has needed to partner with the Northfield Police Department, of course, to ensure the immediate safety of any affected students and families, depending on the incident. And I want to be really clear that I am super grateful for their partnership and support, and yet in my memory, I can count on sort of like one hand the number of times it was necessary to involve them this year. And so I sort of propose maintaining this relationship and partnership, but I see a far greater value in our investment as a school community in tangible school climate and culture goals. So creating a shared language about the kind of school climate we want to foster, engaging the whole community in reaching those goals, investment in a restorative justice coordinator, continued investment in the Brave Schools project partnership that we're currently engaged in, super appreciative to Patricia and Kathy and others who have supported us in getting that off the ground. And I just really believe that furthering that work would be very difficult with the addition of an SRO. So I'll just close by offering gratitude for all of the incredible people in this building and all of you, mental health professionals, teachers, nurses, librarians, and more. By working together this year, sorry, I'm almost done. By working together this year, we have engaged in a critical analysis of our response to crisis and de-escalation, such that we now have really specific protocols for managing crisis among the student support team. These protocols draw on a collaborative approach to problem solving and risk assessment, and strategies for de-escalation that draw on a trauma-informed approach, and has rarely required intervention from police. So that's all. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Charity. All right, so Noam Cashett Schilling? Let's see. All right. And is Mary Sullivan Bowen here? All right, and Heath Cummings?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So speaking to you as a parent of a rising junior, a member of the Northfield Select Board, and former SRO in this school, last person to hold the position full-time, definitely have a lot of my own things that I probably said a million times, so I kind of like to respond to some of the stuff that's already been said today about community. When I was here, the position was fairly new. There had only been one person in the role before me, and it was a fairly young and experienced officer, and me having, I think, 17 years at that point coming into the role, added a lot to it. There was a lot to be added. The first person that was here did a fantastic job, but there was just a lot of things that could be added to it. And one of the biggest things I think that I added to it was the sense of community. You know, being a father of a kid who was in this school district, this was the community that I wanted him to feel safe in. All the people that he grew up with and those kids' parents, I wanted every one of them to feel safe as possible. And the parents who had talked to me when I was here saying, you don't know how much of a relief it is to know that someone's there like you when we're at work. When we drop our kids off and we put them on the bus for the day, we know that someone is there if something worst case scenario were to happen. And then all of the other things that I had brought to the table as far as the cyberbullying, the distracted driving trailer that I brought, the impaired education that I did, impaired driving education that I did with the kids. All of the stuff just added to what an SRO does. But the biggest part was that community building. And I had gotten certified in probably almost every level of education you could have gotten to bolster school safety, SRO education, And a lot of it went along the lines of restorative justice. There were many things that back when I was here were not allowed now. The juvenile reform laws of 2018 really tightened up a lot of what an SRO can actually do in a school regarding criminal acts. Discipline is discipline. An SRO is not a disciplinarian in the school. They are there to help in those instances, like someone said a little while ago, maybe a handful of times a year. But that handful of times is just one small slice of what an SRO does for your school. Yes, we can focus on the security portion of it. That is a big part. If there were that worst case scenario where something were to happen, you want that person there. And I can't imagine making the decision to not have an SRO here and then have to live with the fact that that could have cost somebody something extremely high, a very high price to pay because of the decision that was made not to have that SRO here. I think having them here doesn't interfere with restorative justice. You have those practices. They can help collaborate with that and bolster those restorative justice practices. I know I tried to when I was here, and I've seen it happen in the school districts with many of the great SROs that are around in this entire county. There's a lot of great SROs out there doing a lot of the things that what the people behind me just mentioned that they'd like to see in these schools. So really, I think limiting what an SRO does to just a security aspect, or that there's going to be this Gestapo-type police force in a school, that's not what's going to happen. I mean, we have a great chief of police in this town, and the oversight of the select board who put together a great MOU that outlines what this position can and cannot do. And there's a lot of misconceptions of what an SRO could do in a school if they were brought here. So I think the bottom line is that the amount of community, the amount of protection, the amount of benefits that it would bring to this school system, and a lot of the parents who are there who would like to see this happen, I think can all agree that this would be a great addition to the school. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Hello, folks. I'm Alex Meisner, a resident in town here, also the chair of the Northfield Select Board. So, for the past 5 years, I've seen this program transition and be developed through Massachusetts law, as well as getting an overall sense of opinion from what the students want. So I remember when Heath had first left the SRO position, there was a document that went around the school system. And to my knowledge, there was over 200 signatures signed by the students in support and favor of what an SRO has done for them. So I just took a few notes down. I just like the fact that, we always talk about data and we talk about what is happening in this country. And I don't always think that's very relative to what is going on in Western Massachusetts, which has its own very vibrant and very different type of political culture and policing culture that exists, which is governed by laws. We have to follow the law. SROs have to follow the law. I never consider an SRO a police officer necessarily, because what they do when an MOU is designed for that district in consultation with the police chief and the superintendent is a much different thing than what is done between, which is what a police officer does. So when we talk about data that happens all over the country, it's very macro level, and in my opinion, it's a fallacy. It's something that doesn't exactly apply to what is happening in this district at this time. So when an MOU is created and crafted, we take into account what this district needs, and creating the collaboration with restorative justice, which I would completely 100% agree on. We need that discussion. We need to have that conversation. But when you collaborate with your local police department and surrounding police departments, you create a more team mentality instead of a division, that the cops have their job and the social workers and the counselors and everybody else have their job. We have to bridge that gap, and the way we bridge that gap is by getting them to work together in the school system so that we can show our children that different points of view and different opinions can have common ground to share. And I think that's great for a young mind that's developing. I've just seen a lot of stuff on Nextdoor. There's been a lot of opinions. There's a lot of information. The information just gets out so easily these days. A lot of misinformation. It's a great thing of this country that we live in, that we're able to express how we feel. But unfortunately, emotion and disinformation can have a negative effect. And I I just want to make sure that people get the facts right and that they read the current MOU, they stay up to date on what that MOU says, they listen to the select board meetings, they consult with the police chief, and they understand what's going on in our society. So I'll stick right to the 3 minutes. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing your discussion on it at a future meeting. So, thanks.
Thank you. All right. John? Yeah, go ahead. And this is our, yeah. Yep, we're at the 20-minute mark, so we'll allow a few more minutes. Yeah.
John Wall, Chief of Police. I've been working on this project for a year and a half. When I took this job, I was told that Pioneer PVRS wanted a school resource officer. So that's what I did. I hired a school resource officer at the time, and then they had to pull out because we weren't sure, working with the school, whether we were going to have that or not, and there was no job security there. I've since then hired another police officer, and this person's ready to be a school resource officer. They're all trained up. They have all the, again, this is my subjective opinion. I would still need to have a process to introduce this person to the school committee and the community. And that's really, I only make that point because we have a mental health program in town where we have a mental health clinician that rides with us. You never know if these programs, how they're gonna go. You have to try it. And that's the great thing about the MOU. There's nothing that's causing this to be forever. This is not a forever thing. And I wouldn't be a part of a program that went into a direction there. All the negative things that you've heard, and they make really great points. If we even slightly go in that direction, I won't have a part of that. There won't be a discussion. I'm not forcing this on the school. This is completely the school's decision. All I can say is that I hired a police officer that I believe, and I'm hiring another police officer, hopefully that might qualify also. And then when I put it out to the police officers that I have, because that's all I can do, we're a small town, so I got to put them out to the officers I have available to us, so I don't have a gigantic pool for this. I think you'll find that these police officers are more kind of like social workers, and that's what we do. And there's no one that has more training than a police officer, especially police officers that have, kind of been around for a long time in towns like Greenfield, or I worked in UMass Amherst or Brattleboro. And we go to mental health calls. We've seen people in crisis. We have de-escalated. We have all this hands-on experience. We are mental health workers. That's what we do. We're not labeled that. We just happen to have a firearm on our side, unfortunately, because we live in a society where the worst-case scenario can happen. But I don't view this, I think, as I hear everyone, I feel like we're all actually on the same page, which we want what's best for the kids and the students and the community at the school. And that's definitely what I want. So I don't want to create any division or any arguments over this. I just want to ensure everyone that, hey, if we take a chance on this, we'll keep evaluating the program. And if it's not liked by the school, then we'll go from there. And there's going to be adjustments that need to be made. In any program that you start up the first time, there's going to be some learning curves, and we can expect that. But I think when we base our decision on statistics, on what's happening around the nation in Chicago, that's apples and oranges to me. That's like not going to a pizza place because you heard some pizza place in Alaska was bad. That's not what we have going on here. We have a good police department and we have good candidates for it. I can't guarantee that everyone's going to be happy about it, but let's just give it a chance and see how it goes from there. That's all I'm asking, is that the community gives it a chance and maybe gets rid of this negative stigma about being a police officer and starts thinking, okay, they're just like us. Like, I'm just a person and a parent just like everyone here. My kids go to school at the elementary school. They're 8 and 10 years old, and I want people to realize that police officers are just like you. We just happen to have a badge on us, and we have a lot of negative things said about us. And honestly, we deserve it sometimes. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? All right. So moving on, thank you everyone for your thoughtful input. We'll be moving on to our next item, which is the minutes.
Really
Yes.
quickly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just want to apologize for being late. I didn't realize the meeting had been changed to 6,
Oh.
or was at 6 until 3 o'clock. They're pretty much directly from work. So I'm sorry I missed the first part of this comments, and just want to let everyone know.
No problem. Thank you. All right. So minutes for June 8th, 2023. Okay. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay. There's another number of small things on page 3 that I saw. Near the top on section E, I only have one L in my name. Funny how I noticed that. On section G, I think the word is report, not reported, in the first line. Under 9, the second line, I think the word should be known instead of know. And that's what I noticed. Thank you.
Any other corrections for the June 8th? Seeing none, we'll move on to the June 15th minutes.
I did not see anything needing correction here.
All right. And June 26th.
I saw one small item under business, third line near the end. I think the word is it.
Oh. All right, that was a short one. All right. And
I'm sorry, can we go back, please? I'm sorry. A comma. Thursday, June 8th, page 3, item F, second line. Most presentations have taken place, comma, with Irving and Warwick outstanding.
Ah, very good.
Very good.
It reads differently.
I'm
It
slipping up.
does. Eats, shoots, and leaves. Makes a difference. All right.
Sorry? They are outstanding.
They are
That's
outstanding.
absolutely right. Those are outstanding communities.
All right. So I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes of June 8th, June 15th, and June 26th as corrected.
I move that we approve the minutes of June 8th, June 15th, and June 26th as amended.
Great. And any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. All right. No opposed. That passes unanimously. It's so nice when we're all in person. All right. So on to the chair's report. We have our retreat coming up on Saturday, the 22nd. Today's the 20th, so it's 22nd. The agenda has been posted. There was a memo in our packets this evening about some proposed changes to the organization of the subcommittees. So that was just informational. We'll discuss that on Saturday, and we'll take action as we see fit. I do just want to point out that the draft subcommittee list has Jennifer Coffin listed as the chair of the teaching and learning, and that was an error, so disregard that. To be determined. So, yes.
Michelle asked that if she was not here, to make sure that people knew where to go for this meeting, because there's sometimes a mix-up between the town offices, which are in the former elementary school, and the town hall, and it is at 16 West Leiden Road, which is the town hall, a white building across from the church.
In beautiful downtown Leiden.
Yes. Very picturesque.
A town without any businesses, no food for sale. Yeah. So bring your lunch or
Lovely
whatever.
view, yes. And I will plan to bring some coffee and tea, and I'm going to make a stop at Sweet Lucy's. So if you have any requests, let me know. Text me. Sounds good. All right, the superintendent's report.
I will be brief because we have a full agenda. So great news on the physical education athletic front. Were we to take a walk down to the Pioneer Gym, you would see a brand spanking refurbished floor. It got the seal of approval from Sherry Webb. Sherry, if someone directs you to this video, here's a big old shout out. Big old shout out to my colleague here on the left, Jordan Birds, and Gretchen Licata, that duo, for shepherding this project from beginning to end. Thank you, school committee, for approving the money. I can't wait for our community to come in and see. I'm going to have Jordan talk about it. It looks so sharp. Will you just
Oh,
talk
sure.
about it?
I would
a field
talk about it
trip.
all day if I was allowed, but you know, I spoke with Scott Thayer as well, and he said some of the young gentlemen from the basketball team have already been out there, and most importantly, has their seal of approval.
Nice.
So I was happy to hear that. I mentioned to Scott that probably gives him the ability to work the young people harder, but he said maybe not. But I think they're very happy, and I'm glad that you know, all the young kids in our school who work so hard and during the season, you know, now have better facilities. I think it looks brilliant. Gretchen did a great job, not only designing it herself, but you know, getting input from Scott, for example, about the appearance. And you know, now we have panther paw prints, which is amazing. So
Yeah, we have,
apparently
like-
that was historical. They were there in the past, and now they've been restored. So
Beautiful big panther in the center of the court. And on, what do you call the ends of the gym?
right, the baselines. Oh, you mean right along under the hoop?
Yeah, maybe 4 foot or so black strip with the word Panthers cut out, and you see the wood floor. That's what makes the letters. And Sherry kept saying, oh, they've got that line. Oh, they've got that marked. So what a great investment. Thank you, school committee, for supporting a stellar facility. I did not know until Miss Sherry Webb mentioned it the other day. Do folks know that our basketball court is 10 feet longer than every other basketball court in?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit longer than regulation, so that we work extra hard.
Yeah, but no, it does something good. Yeah, they have to, okay, all right. On that theme, physical education, the district is this close to signing a contract with a second physical education teacher for Pioneer.
Good, nice.
Brian Campbell, we are so excited that he will be starting he has started as athletic director. Brian will become a physical education teacher. The PVREA contract provides for that person in that role to have fewer classes so that they can do the work of an athletic director. Peter King, our former physical education teacher here, had proposed, and we approved, a new course called Intro to Coaching, which was very popular with the kids when they signed up. So, this close to signing, we're so excited. A young man who is all about strength and conditioning, an experienced coach, experienced physical educator. Jordan and Mr. Jim Trill knew him as a student at Mahar. He is the Massachusetts director of the National High School Strength and Conditioning Association. This close. And he has already been in the Ox Gym and has developed 3 different scenarios for how to revamp. The Ox Gym is a big space to the left of the gym. It has beautiful access both outdoors and to the gym through a back door. He has some phenomenal ideas for some low-cost, massive upgrades to that space so that it could become a wonderful place where students do more physical activity, where maybe we start offering classes for staff before or after school, but strength and conditioning, strength and conditioning, strength and conditioning. So go Pioneer.
Nice, exciting stuff. All right. So moving on to our report from our Director of Finance and Operations, Jordan Burns.
Yes, and similar to Patricia, I will keep it as brief as possible and hopefully as informative as possible as well. We are coming to the close of the FY23 fiscal year, technically over on June 30th, but there's still activity as we try to close out the fiscal year and do different journal adjustments, et cetera, to take care of everything in preparation and closing out the year. I met this week with our financial overseer, Cami Lamica, and we'll meet with her again in August as we look at closing out the year. So a lot of good news. In terms of the expenditures, we still have around 2% of the budget remaining. That figure will change as we do journal adjustments, but generally looking good. Revenues came in above budgeted, so that's a positive as well. And are there any questions about the financials or the memo provided?
So just to clarify, when an expenditure category has a negative balance, that means we didn't spend as much as we thought we would?
That means we spent more. So when
Oh,
it
we
has a
spent more.
positive
Okay.
balance, there's still money left. It's the opposite
Okay.
with revenues, so it is
Because we
confusing.
spent, yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah, so-
spent more than we had planned on
Yep,
in those categories. Okay.
yes.
Were you going to enlighten us on what the new account codes are? I noticed when going through the warrants that there were some ones I couldn't place because it had changed for the July one.
Yes, so we have a portion, very exciting, number 5, where we will
Oh,
talk about
okay.
that a little more.
Okay,
That's okay, it's a
You're not
great
done.
prelude. Thank you, Karen.
thanks.
Coming attractions. Steve, yeah.
Very much. Thank you very much for the report, and I'm just looking here under the revenues you mentioned. The FY23 revenue currently exceeds budgeted revenue, which is really, as you said,
Yeah.
great to see. It looks as though on the bullet point 3 that will dissipate from that 6-figure to a 5-figure 15,000. Is that accurate? That there are expenditures that will draw down on?
Oh, no, sorry.
Maybe I'm misreading. I apologize. So,
So I mentioned that there will certainly be a 6-figure excess, so around $320,000.
I project total revenue
Right.
from the accounts.
Right, so overall will be $15,560,000, and the budget amount was $15,227,923.
So what happens to that difference?
Yeah.
Just the guy.
No, perfectly reasonable question. So it will go into excess and deficiency, and the amount that exceeds 5% of the previous year's budget will be returned to the towns either through a check or by appropriating in the next year's budget.
And that's by law? Yeah, okay.
All right. Other questions?
Good, and more good news. We had some commissioners' approvals of the budget transfers that were approved at the June 8th meeting. So thank you to the commissioner and continued cooperation.
Just want to make sure we point out for the public, because this came in right after the agenda was posted. Item number 4, as Jordan pointed out, is the commissioner's approval letter for the budget transfers. In addition, the commissioner has approved the district's contract with Responsive Classroom.
Yes, and as I mentioned yesterday, Cami, our financial overseer, was here, and as we were speaking, I mentioned this one, and it's great to have people in high places because Cami sent an email, and then suddenly we had the approval very shortly thereafter. So that was extremely helpful. And I think, in all seriousness, that shows what a great relationship Cami has, and you know, both providing us guidance and the relationship with the commissioner to help get that done so quickly. So thank you to Cami. And so now we have approval for our contract with Responsive Schools, the Center for Responsive Schools. So that will allow us to do the professional development at the beginning of the year and a couple days during the school years. So that is very exciting. And now the account code update. So I provided a relatively brief memo, but at the conclusion of the fiscal year 21 audit, the auditor had mentioned that our account codes historically are out of compliance with DESI account codes, which creates a variety of problems in terms of filing end-of-the-year reports. You know, it puts us in a situation where we have to create a crosswalk, and it's a less efficient process. And so we have changed to the DESI recommended account codes. So again, in consultation with our financial overseer, we made changes to be in compliance. So it was a long process, and as Karen mentions, will be initially confusing, but that's why I provided the crosswalk so that people will be able to see how those changes impact the account codes. There's no fiscal impact. There's no changes in the budget. It's just, you know, for example, a 0001.5100 becoming a 0001.5200 to comply with DESI. So,
So if we click on that word crosswalk, we should be able to see?
yes, there's a spreadsheet.
I don't think it worked for me, but, okay.
But I can certainly, if anyone has trouble with that, because I suffer from the same thing occasionally, Karen, just want to click on things and it doesn't quite respond how I'd hope, I'm happy to email, or I can just email everyone.
Okay, it could be my 15-year-old computer, too.
So may I, so I'm going to toot my colleague's horn for a second. He said this brief memo. I'm going to guess that this memo took 3 hours. Right. So when you read these distilled brief documents,
No.
know that a lot of intellectual energy has gone into making them brief for you and for the public, so that only the most important information is what's on the page. So I'm just going to say that on Jordan's behalf.
Good.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate that, yeah, very much.
Good. So any questions?
I don't see any. Thank you very much.
Good.
All right. For subcommittee reports, I'm just going to give an update on what I know. Curriculum and Personnel met to discuss the SRO position, which is on the agenda later on for discussion. And negotiations met on an item that we'll discuss in executive session and that we'll be voting on when we reconvene next week. So, all right.
Or on August 10th. No, next week, you're right, sorry.
Yes.
My bad.
Yeah.
Wait,
Sorry,
A
people.
lot of curveballs today.
who reconvenes? I'm sorry.
The school committee, where we'll be taking a vote. Our votes were not posted on this.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, but
this
you weren't
agenda, so
talking
we'll
about
be
a second
on-
full
No,
school.
no. Our special meeting on Tuesday that we'll
Okay.
be posting tomorrow.
All right.
So, sounds good. So moving on to business, we have Jessica Corwin. Oh, yes.
Hi, thank you. So I'm no longer part of the Curriculum and Personnel Subcommittee, but I was part of the meetings, and there are minutes for those meetings. So I don't know the approval process. I won't necessarily approve them, but I'd like to see them before they're submitted to, for approval.
Okay, we can arrange that. Yeah, we can share the minutes of the meetings that you were present
Yeah,
with.
that'd be
Yeah,
great. Thank you.
that'd be fine. All right. So Jessica is an alumni of PVRS and chair of the Sunderland School Committee. So, and you'll be speaking on the Rural Schools Bill.
Yes, thank you. I haven't been in this building in about 25 years, and I was surprised to learn the library is over here now. Thank you for having me back. I'm the chair of the Sunderland School Committee, and I'm here to talk to you about the Rural Schools Bill, which is an item of shared interest for all of us.
Oh, yeah.
Before I really launch in, are there any select board or finance committee member? Great. Please listen. I would love to recruit you too.
Over here also.
Really? Wonderful. Yes, I'd love to catch up with both of you. So the rural, let me give you a little bit of backstory to this. You probably have all participated in town meetings and budget processes where you have to negotiate how much money can we get from the town for the schools. Upstream from that, those numbers depend on how much money we get from the state. So the formulas about state funding for education are based on assuming that a school building has between 300 and 600 students, and every school building needs a principal, needs a school nurse, needs an administrative assistant, needs a custodian, needs to heat the building. Every district has at least 2,500 students, but you still need a superintendent, you need a business manager, you need a director of special education. The upshot of this is that it costs like 23% more per student to educate in districts like mine and yours than it does for larger districts. And we are working on getting our funding models caught up to that reality. So when they passed the Student Opportunity Act in 2019, there were lots of groups, very vulnerable groups, that they wanted to account for to promote equity. They did a really good job of that. But when rural schools said, us, they said, we're going to give you a commission. So we had a commission to study these issues. It was co-chaired by Natalie Blay, who represents many of us. And they did this wonderful report after a big listening tour on all of the issues facing rural schools. So we have this rural schools bill now. It was written by Natalie Blay. It has been introduced by her and Joe Comerford. Susanna Whips is a co-sponsor of it. There are 31 provisions, I believe, in it. I'm not going to go over all 31. The headliner of the bill is rural aid. The rural aid fund for the year that just concluded was funded at $5.5 million. This bill would bring it up to $60 million. And as written right now, it's not subject to appropriations. This bill will go through many changes as it goes through the legislative process before it eventually gets passed. It may not pass in this session. It may take 4 or 6 years. But Joe and Natalie are working really hard and with many teammates across the state. Today we had a legislative briefing. It was all online. And the superintendent of Taunton spoke about the need for equity and how that needs to include rural students. So I've been working closely with leadership from the Mohawk Trail Regional District, Cheryl Stanton and Martha Thurber. Many of you may know them. And Carolyn Shores-Ness, who's the Deerfield Select Board Chair. So we are working on organizing and building support for this bill. I've got 2 asks for you tonight, but before I get to those, do you have questions for me about, would you like to hear a few more provisions of the bill? It's just really good. I know you've got a full agenda. I don't need to go into all the details. Okay. So 2 asks for you tonight. The first one is we are working on a joint letter with as many signatures of school committee members and select board and finance committee members as possible from across the state. They do not need to be from rural towns. Raina has already signed it, but I don't have any of the rest of your names on it. So rather than asking you to go do it, if you just gave me verbal permission, I'd add you to my list. Yes? Yes, thank you. And are you a school committee member?
I'm a representative for the town of Warwick to the Pioneer Valley Regional School.
Got it. I could put you on there.
There we go.
Can I put your name on there? Great, thank you. And other select board school and finance committee members? Thank you very much. My second ask was just for your help to recruit more finance and select board committee member names. I'm finding that the most efficient way to actually add names is to go to meetings and get verbal permission like I'm doing right now. If any of you could go to, actually, maybe you two would be willing to talk to your own boards. And
I have a brief question.
please.
It's really, so not subject to appropriations, meaning we're talking federal dollars, no tax money, no tax burden on, no state taxes on the citizens.
That is a level that I don't fully understand. I just know the language says not subject to appropriations. I'm sorry, I can't answer. It just says not subject to appropriations. We've built a website that links to the original bill, gives sort of, digestible versions of it. It's ruralschoolsma.org and has, this is my next ask, it has templates with a resolution and a letter to send to the Joint Committee. Right now, the next step is we need the Joint Committee on Education for the state to hold a hearing. And I was wondering if your board would consider passing a resolution to send to them saying we are strongly in support of this bill.
I think that it's something that we did talk about at a previous meeting, and we just need to draft the statement that we will sign. So
Thank you.
it's on the burner. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks for all your work and appreciate sort of the profound nature that this would bring to the rural areas. I'm all for playing the long game and certainly understand legislative processes are built around sometimes the long game. But then there's the short game and the medium game, which is how do our legislative representatives have ideas as to how we can make ends meet until this is hopefully passed? Because there's a lot of time and budgets between here and 4 or 6 years from now. So
I can't speak on their behalf.
I imagine you can't, but it seems like over the next hill is a tough, it's not a great strategy for next budget year, for example. So if you're speaking with them, just appreciate their thoughts as to how our districts can make do in this time where we're disproportionately unfunded. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that should certainly be part of the conversation going forward. Is there any discussion about addressing the transportation reimbursement that was part of regionalization?
Oh, regional transportation, I believe it does call for full funding of regional transportation. It also calls for full funding of special education transportation, of extraordinary transportation. So if you're, I don't know exactly what the number is, but it has to do with like the number of miles that your buses have to travel. It includes full circuit breaker for special education when you're sending students out of district or educating them in-house with very high costs. It calls for 100% reimbursement of what it's supposed to be. Right now, they have not been fully funding it, and giving it back to the district in the year those expenses are incurred rather than a reimbursement the following year.
Yeah.
They really listened. This is a beautiful bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Thank you so much for your time and
so
support.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And for folks in the audience and at home, tonight's school committee meeting packet will be posted on the district website tomorrow. Go to the district website and click on school committee and agendas and meetings. And there is a link if you go to business. The first item of business tonight was Ms. Corwin's visit and the rural schools bill. That's the first 3 words. Click on that and it will take you to the website that Sunderland School Committee Chair Corwin just referred to.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So moving on to our gifts to the schools, classroom tables and native plants.
Good. And I neglected to mention one thing during my report. I was trying to keep it too brief. I wanted to mention that we are the proud recipients of $141,000 of school safety funding. So, that, and it would have been nice if some of the participants in the initial conversation were still here, because I think that that's very germane and relevant to the conversation regarding school safety. But I made a few notes about, so in consultation with local police, fire, Franklin County sheriffs, state police, we identified quite a few areas that we want to improve our school safety, and then we took those areas and applied for this school safety grant, and were awarded $141,000, which I believe was the fourth largest allocation in the state. So we're punching above our weight in that respect, because we are not the 4th largest district in the state, to my knowledge. Yeah, exactly. We did it based on land area. We may, in fact, be.
Excellence.
Based on strength of the school committee, possibly higher. And so we looked at those aspects that were identified, right? We consulted with the professionals and were awarded $141,000 to put to those areas. And those areas include, adding window film to our windows to make it harder, for people outside the building to see in, security cameras, and updating our card access system, or in the cases of our elementary buildings, installing card access system, because currently we're on keys, which sometimes frustrates me as well, because I forget my key. And Patty Solomon had to let me in once last summer. Thank you, Patty. So it's for a small district, that amount of money towards our school safety is transformational, right? Because it means that all of our buildings will get a global upgrade and be on the same systems, and there won't be, one school gets done in the 80s, then the 90s, then the 2000s, they don't really match up. So it's going to be big. And just school safety in general, this is one of those things that we can publicly talk about and say this is wonderful and this is great, but this isn't all we're doing for school safety. I'm sure people realize that not every aspect of our school safety plan and what we're doing to keep students safe is going to be made public, because that would, in some respects, defeat the purpose, right? Because, I guess it's what they always talk about, why you don't you don't want the bad guys to know what the plan is, right? So that's that. But, obviously there was a vibrant and great discussion regarding the school resource officer, but that's not the be-all end-all of school safety, right? We're working very hard to ensure student safety, outside of that conversation as well, and this is going to be a great investment, and it's a partnership, right? Working with people. I've been in the room when Patricia had 8 to 10 law enforcement and fire officials visiting, because she wants to make the best plan for the district. So, we're going in the right direction on all of these things, and it's great for our towns. Obviously, as a great colleague of mine, Brian Keir, is in the audience, and he knows what the impact is there as well for the towns, right? Because some of these upgrades, we're going to the towns saying, can you do these, because these are really important, and with this money we can say, hey, we don't need to ask for quite as much, and I think that's wonderful to strengthen that partnership. As we all know, there's so many different priorities and so many different people coming to our small towns, so to be able to reduce that burden a little bit, it makes us very happy, because the towns are our most important partners. So good news there, and I wanted to just highlight that for everyone.
Thank you.
So on to more good news, right? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
was there a question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So yeah, sounds good. All right, and so we have next to talk about donations of the activity tables and some native plants.
Yes. So again, more great news about relationship with our community. We have people who want to donate some tables and some plants. So and we have a suggested motion for approval. Are there any questions about these wonderful donations?
I, for one, am very excited about the native plants. I've been interested in native plant gardening for many years, and I'm so excited about getting some, yes.
So on that topic, I'll be brief. I met with John Lepore, and I meet frequently. He's just marching along with all this work. John Lepore has cataloged all of the plant species on the Northfield campus. He's made a spreadsheet, and for each, he has identified whether it is invasive or not. He's identified whether or not it has a wetlands designation, and if so, what type of wetlands designation. And then there is a link, there is its common name, Latin name, and the Latin name is a live link to the USDA's page on that plant. He has a spreadsheet for Northfield. He has a spreadsheet for the north parcel at Bernardston and the south parcel at Bernardston, and whether any of the species are observed on the other campus. Mm-hmm. And in addition, he has now started making a spreadsheet of the birds he has observed at Northfield. And when one clicks on the bird's name, it takes one to where else? Cornell.
Ornithology.
He's using Merlin. He's putting his phone up and listening to the bird song and identifying. Yeah. It's not a complete list. And he said, Patricia, we have to do this in every season.
Yes.
Like, yes, John, we do. What an amazing, so these native plants coming, but John has created, which Jordan Cummings, our new environmental educator, gosh, we have a list of the observed species for flora. We'll get there with fauna. I just had to say that. It was this morning, I just was.
It also sounds like a great opportunity to get students into
all
right?
of this.
Like, it's just.
Oh, right, and so the kids, there will be an opening at Dickinson. I'll put this in, I'll get a district update. There will be an opening at Dickinson Memorial Library, I think next week, for the pre-KK 5th or 6th grade site plans, and then they're going up in Bernardston at the Council on Aging, and I need to call them to see if we can have a little opening with some iced tea so that the public can see. Yeah.
Nice.
Fabulous.
Nice.
So I love dogwoods. I think that's amazing. They have great habitat value, and I'm really looking forward to being able to enjoy them in their native habitat in our community. So, all right. So I would, entertain a motion.
Yes, I'd like to motion to accept the donation of 2 classroom activity tables from Robin Therian to use at Northfield Elementary School, and the donation of a collection of native plants from the Northfield Conservation Commission and Open Space Committee with permanent locations to be determined.
I second.
That's great. All right. And any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Great. And no opposed. That passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Disposal of surplus property.
Yep. So we have a ton of people doing great work over the summer, and this is just an example of that. The collection at BES is being weeded, and early childhood materials are also being looked at that were stored at NES. And so there's a ton of activity going on throughout our schools. Any questions about either of these initiatives? Good. And there's a request for a motion.
I move that we approve the disposal of surplus property from the BES library and the early childhood program either through donation or disposal into a dumpster provided at the schools.
Second.
Great. And I just want to say I appreciate the effort to look for opportunities to donate items that we
Yes,
no longer need.
of course.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Say aye. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the that early childhood clean out of the closet was one of those scary spaces, right, over at Northfield. Renee, do you know this closet? Yeah, so I get a bunch of texts, ding, 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 Sunday morning from early childhood coordinator, Marin Law, and 3 teachers who are Sunday morning in that space, because that's when they found to clean out many years worth of,
Yeah,
Wow.
right?
I know what that's like.
Go team.
Good team. Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, I'll do this one. It's about my colleague Jordan Burns. The district needs a chief procurement officer, and wouldn't you know, there is a MCPPO. Where is the MCPPO part? Massachusetts Certified Public Procurement Officer. So why do we need this? A certified procurement officer is someone who can help us save money. And they are able to run the whole bid process under Chapter 30B. Currently, we work with the wonderful FERCOG. What is Andrea's last name? Woods, Andrea Woods. She's terrific. She's, I know our town, I know Northfield works with, and she's so good at what she does, but we need our own person because then we can run this stuff in-house. We don't pay a lot of money to FERCOG, but let's save the money. So it would help us centralize purchasing, get better prices, be able to do our own bids, and it has been recommended by Cami Limica, our fiscal overseer, and our auditors. And it turns out our auditors have noted this for several years. So it is. Now, Jordan has completed the first of 3 courses to get his full certification. I've checked this out. It is okay for the school committee to appoint him now, even though he's not completed all the 3 courses. He could be the district's chief procurement officer. He cannot yet act under Chapter 30B. Appointing him will let our auditors know we heard you, we acted, we're on the right track. So I would respectfully request that the school committee consider the motion on the backside of that page.
2 quick questions. Is it common for a finance director? And of course, there's no conflict of interest in the 2 roles, right?
Yeah, I think if a district has one, it's probably this person. So,
Okay.
Yeah, unless it's a huge district, then they might have a purchasing, like for example, some of the out east, I'm sure a district has a purchasing department, and then that person would do it.
Mhm.
I'd like to motion to appoint Jordan Burns as the district's chief procurement officer.
I second that.
That's good. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye, good. And that passes unanimously. Thank you, congratulations.
Congratulations, Jordan.
Yeah.
You get to do more paperwork.
More work.
We will send a letter.
Right.
All right. So next item on our agenda is the facilities master planning process, an update.
Yes. So since John Lepore was just topic of conversation, I had the wonderful opportunity to take a representative from Canon Design, Paul Mills, who's more than just a representative. He's leading the project into our woodlands on all three sites because, as people have rightly pointed out, we need to get students outside more. So when doing a facilities master plan, looking at how our facilities impact education, we want to ensure that the architectural firm, the person leading the project, is well acquainted with our outside facilities. So when developing a plan, we're not just talking about bricks and mortar. We're also talking about the actual infrastructure outside the school. And so Paul walked all of the different places, was hugely impressed and hugely supportive of incorporating, the outside of the buildings into whatever we're doing for facilities. So, but we are moving forward with the facilities master planning process. We are going to send a letter out to the community soon asking for volunteers, including school committee volunteers. So if anyone's looking for more work, we will have volunteers among students, staff, parents, administrators. So yes, towns, Brian.
You available in those dates, Brian? All of
Just,
them? Yeah, all 5.
yeah.
That Saturday.
So we're looking, for volunteers. It's a lot of time, but in some respect, it's helping determine the future, at least from a infrastructure perspective of the school, and helping to lead that process. So that's a big piece of the work, obviously, getting those people together and committed, because that's where the real activity. Obviously, we're going to have all of our buildings assessed in August and looked at, but in terms of the decision making and the interacting with the wider community at large, it's this committee, the district planning committee, that's going to lead this process. So that's a super important next step, is getting that district planning committee together.
I want to add, so in terms of decision making, I just want to say a little bit more about that. The district planning committee will be seeking input from the community. And so there are 2 community forums, which will be led by Canon. I just love that. That's where we saved some money, some tens of thousands of dollars with them, because we collapsed 2 different committees, and so we saved $50,000. They lead that, which is terrific, and there'll be community surveys. The district planning committee will make recommendations about options. It doesn't make any decisions about what happens in the future. District planning committee, it takes input, learns, makes recommendations, and then Canon is going to make their own independent recommendation to the school committee. So you are the decision-making body. I just want to clarify that. And again, we'll be looking for 2 school committee members, so there will be 20 people, ideally, on the district planning committee, 9 folks who work full-time for the district, 2 school committee members, 2 educators, 3 town representatives, 2 students, and John Lepore.
Awesome.
Just real quick, have there been discussions about having outdoor learning spaces? Something we had talked about in the past?
So that will come up,
Part-
that's what this
Okay.
process will do.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right.
No vote needed.
Nope, no vote. That was just informational, and please consider, and
I will send the letter out tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's all, Jordan and I have been working on it, Cannon started, it's ready to go, I'll send it tomorrow.
Sounds good. All right, so next on our agenda is the school resource officer. And again, we will not be voting, but we would like to have a discussion about the position. So I just have a few comments. This has been, a tough issue to grapple with. There are no simple answers. I know for some, it's a no-brainer. Police presence means that, for a lot of people, they feel that that means that, a space is more safe. And for other people in our society, that's the exact opposite is true. So, so it's we've tried to listen to the concerns of stakeholders. There have been lots of opinions on many different sides of the issue. So I think we've tried to take a deep dive into the effects of a school resource officer on a school community. There's a lot of variation in the role. Generalizations are very difficult to make because it varies by region, state, school district, in particular schools. A lot of what the SRO position looks like depends on the individual who is in that position, and that's hard to define. Like Chief Hall said, we don't know what it's going to look like until it happens. So it's hard to predict. We do try to make an informed decision, and we try to make a careful choice in who is in our schools, and we want to be cognizant of how it affects all of the members of our community. As Jordan said, our safety plan doesn't rely on just one person or one role in the community, our school community. We have many layers to our safety plan. There are many facets to what we are doing. There's been a lot of work that's gone on to do threat assessments, and to the drills have been happening in our schools, and a lot of the work that's being done in the debriefings, the recommendations that have come from that are really important. And we've built on those. We've used those to tweak the safety plan. We've taken those recommendations and made improvements to make our schools physically safe. And we're also need to think about the emotional safety of the people in our schools. And we heard from many from staff members who are actively engaged in making our schools a safe place for our students. And are working on initiatives to help keep our students safe and make them feel safe in their schools. So I will open the discussion to our members to hear your thoughts on this complicated issue. And I'll just note Michelle Giruso just joined us. Hi, Michelle. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
So thanks, everyone. And very much appreciate all the folks who spoke here tonight, and so also the emails we've received, and which have been so thoughtful. And I'm grateful to be part of a community where people can reach out and know that we'll bear their thoughts and context in mind as we make decisions. I have sort of an unusual perspective on this, which I hope is also helpful, in that I've actually been a law enforcement officer in the past. So I received a Massachusetts state certification in teaching in Roxbury. And then after that, after medical school and residency, became a medical officer at the federal prison at Devens for 2 years full-time. And part of that was training with the FBI and Secret Service and in Glencoe, which is the federal law enforcement training area in Georgia for 3 weeks, including all sorts of firearms, et cetera. And walking into a federal prison every day, you get a sense of why everyone there had to be a correctional officer, which meant that I had to be there for other people just like they would be there for me and were. And then since that time, I've been a physician in a rural community, not very much like this one, and have had our 3 kids, thankfully, spend their education here at Pioneer. Our family has also directly had the direct benefit from our police department over the years when we've had a set of circumstances that have been very difficult, and they've been remarkably helpful. We've had, don't want to count, but a fire or two. And again, the fire department has literally been life and property saving, and EMS has been a neighbor of ours, actually. And it's been wonderful to see them develop over time. So I consider these to be institutions that we benefit from and are part of the civic life of a small town that we're lucky to have and know each other personally. That said, I don't actually want to use that. That's not the lens I like to use. The lens I like to think about is what is the solution for which, what is the problem for which a school resource officer is the solution? And I don't see the problem for which this is a solution. The spheres that we have are such that police, education, EMS, fire, water and sewer, town government have their spheres. But we don't have teachers spending all day at the police station creating partnerships that way. That's not how it's done. And if we want partnerships, I think that making partnerships is a beautiful part of, again, small town life that are genuine and authentic. And as the chief said, this is not to divide people. This is to find ways to partner. However, despite the careful thinking and judiciousness of the memorandum of understanding, that's not what people see when they see a police officer. There's no MOU that they sort of carry around and show people, these are my limits. This is the only things I can do. I'm going to be like this. People see police, and when they see police, I want them to think someone who's helpful and there to help them. But I don't have a sense of why that should be part of a child's educational experience in a school building. And so I hope that the rest of the committee and people in town will understand that this perspective comes from some deliberation and also respect for each role that people play, and sometimes a life-threatening and risky role people play. If we're concerned about safety, then I'm not sure an SRO really addresses that, physical safety. If we're concerned about the need for more of a social work perspective, as the chief mentioned, then let's please invest in social work. But it strikes me that mixing these two institutions doesn't serve either of them necessarily well, even as we work to develop long-term and healthy partnerships with our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh.
I can speak briefly, only in my recent position as chair of the Curriculum and Personnel Subcommittee. And we gave this matter a lot.
Bring the mic a little closer.
Oh. Sorry, so I'm just going to speak as my, as regarding my recent position as the chair of the Curriculum and Personnel Subcommittee. And that committee gave this matter a lot of thought. We all did individual research and came at it from different perspectives. We ended up recommending it to the full committee. And I did that based on the MOU. And I totally hear what you're saying. Like, the MOU is a hard thing to explain. But that's something that I think can be addressed if this is done properly. And I think that in talking with members of the Northfield Police Department, that they are taking the right approach to it. I wouldn't have recommended it had I not thought that. The other thing is that the last line of the MOU says this contract can be either renegotiated or invalidated by either party at any time.
So, yeah, the MOU I felt
It's the
yeah.
second to the last. I'm sorry. This
Mhm.
agreement shall be reviewed annually prior to the start of the school year. This agreement remains in full force and effect through the school year. Shall amended such time. Okay. So this has been changed a little bit. Yeah.
Can I ask, and again,
Yep.
I appreciate the committee looking into this. Back when I was in school, this was not even on the map.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you.
I'm struggling a little bit because it seems like a disproportionate move for a problem that I don't understand. What is the problem that the SRO would help solve?
Right, and
Is
so
is it a matter of ongoing violence? No. Is it a matter of the school's in turmoil? No. Is it a matter of, like, what will the SRO bring to the school that's additive and not causing potential harm only from the position? I don't know who's going to fill it. I don't know any of that. This is not about the position. This is about the role of a law enforcement officer being in a school building every school day. And kids and adults don't read MOUs. I have to come to that.
Right.
Like, that's just not how people think about things.
Right. And I completely hear what you're saying. I personally had a lot of thinking to do about this. Right. I started very much in the position that you're at. And so we addressed what are the issues, right? So if safety is the issue, then building security is the primary thing, right? Which we're now addressing, right? The other issue to address is the emotional and mental well-being of the students and the staff, right? So you have teams, right? You have teams to address that, right?
I don't know of any literature that shows having a police officer helps the emotional and cultural teams in a K-12 building.
Right.
And I don't see people running to, like, they don't come to me, I'm a doctor, like, they're not, come over to our building and be in our building all day. I'm like, I don't know what I would do. I mean, do a good job, guys. So, I mean, like, it's not like that's a natural reach out. The natural reach out would be to social work, counseling,
Right.
so on.
To the teams that are already in place.
Correct, yeah. But why go outside the building to help the building's culture? I don't understand that.
Yeah. Really, the building where the SRO will be most effective is this building. Elementary schools don't really need an SRO. It's kids who are in transition from elementary school into middle school and high school that then start having emotional and mental issues.
School adjustment counselors.
Yes.
Not
yes.
a police officer.
Right. Yes.
Not a police officer.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that say about this maturity and that we've all been growing up for a long time now? And I don't think any one of us around the table had someone in a different role, a firefighter, a select board member, help them through their maturity in their school building. I don't understand why a police officer who's trained to address threats is needed to help student maturity at different junctures in their lives. That is not the role I was trained for. Absolutely not the role.
Right.
And it is not the role I could see anyone, that's not the role or mindset that a police officer should have, to my mind.
Right. And so I think it was Heath that said it earlier. An SRO is really not a police officer.
SRO is a police officer, Nathan. I don't know what to say.
Can I-
They are police. They're hired by the chief of police to be a police officer.
Right.
We can't, as much as people want to massage or change or shapeshift, it's a police officer, and I respect that, and I want that person to be part of my community and help protect my community. But for every 3 of my kids who went here, I wouldn't have voted or thought of this any differently. It's not as though, I would want an SRO when they're here and when they leave here. That's not it at all.
Right.
It is that what I do trust, I want the building to trust the adults that are in the building, which they should be able to do. I want them to trust the culture of their adjustment counselors who are there for them and who we heard tonight aren't opposed to this happening. So I would just ask, how in the heck can a culture improve if the people who actually work here don't want this person to come in the building to improve their culture? That just seems counterintuitive.
Can I?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I voted to bring this to the school committee for exactly your thoughts, Stephen. So thank you very much. I didn't think it was up to 4 people to decide if we should even consider it. So this is exactly what I was hoping for. I believe I was taking some notes earlier, and I believe it was the chief and Councilman Alex who a little bit disregarded the fact of data supporting it and how it's not really relevant. The folks who were not interested in having the SRO came equipped with literature to suggest that there are no huge positives and, in fact, more negatives than seen. And so I think it's a really healthy debate. And if I would like to respectfully disagree with data is not important. If we're making decisions based on the emotional and physical well-being of children, we can't talk about what's making us feel better, what's making us feel worse. And there are equally amount of points on both sides, but I am with you, Stephen, and if there's not a direct problem, the solution is linked to, and it is a police officer, and I appreciate you saying that. And it's interesting as the more I heard Alex and the chief talk about it, is sort of massaging the extracurricular support that this person would engage. And I appreciate the fact that there's no classes about, vaping or drugs or anything, and that's needed, but is that a role of an armed police officer to suffice for that? So I just appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.
And Michelle.
Can you hear me?
Let me turn up the volume.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm sorry that I couldn't be there earlier. I had another conflict. And I'm sorry to the people who spoke for and against it. The only thing that I can say as a school committee member is I don't feel any ownership in this position. I do feel ownership as my responsibility to hire a superintendent and a director of finance. I do feel ownership in that. In looking over this MOU and what our responsibility is, I don't think that the school committee has ownership in this. I'm very uncomfortable with a 3-year contract. I am very uncomfortable in the way I am reading this. Like I said, I have not heard anyone else's. I have done a lot of research on this, and my thought is the $30,000 that we would be spending, I think, should go towards counseling for our children and other programs. I'm in agreement that I don't think we need police officers in our building right now. Maybe we need to look at this a little bit longer. I mean, I hate to make rash decisions without more documentation. I know this came before the budget subcommittee early on, and it was another shock of mine that we hadn't talked about it in the budget and looked at it. But from my perspective right now, I feel the money can be better spent in other areas through, we do have social and emotional issues. And I'm in total agreement with Steve. My children were a byproduct of the DARE days, and I don't believe DARE helped the children. My children are 37 and 41, and I don't think it made a difference with their age group. Luckily, my children are doing very well, and they didn't get involved, but I don't think it made a difference at all.
Can I make 2 comments on hers? And so the first one is across the country, it is the school committee members who always assign an SRO. To her point, is that how it's happening across the board? That the school committees are the ones that vote to have an SRO?
I don't know about other states. my understanding is that in Massachusetts, it is school boards. We did, when we were researching, we did see guidance from a Washington organization that had a very good citizen guides to speaking to your school board, which is what school committees are called in every other part of the country. And they repeatedly referred to this as a school board decision.
We don't appoint the SRO, but we approve
Position.
we approve the appointment.
I just want to say that I also missed that it was added to the budget, but I thought I had missed something, so I didn't raise the question. It appeared in it as a line in the budget. She made a comment about that in the budget she had saw that the SRO position was added to the budget. And is that just because it was a subcommittee and we aren't on that committee?
No, that was a public part
Okay.
of the budget
So
setting process.
Okay. And I did miss
It
it.
was later on, though, in the process.
Go ahead. I do want to comment that, in reading through the MOU, we did, the subcommittee did comment on some pieces that were not entirely clear, but there were lots of pieces that really defined what the SRO's role would be and what the parameters of the SRO's involvement. Discipline came up. I think that's often the big question that comes up. Are they going to get involved with disciplining students who are just acting out in class? And they are prohibited from being involved in the disciplinary process unless or until the principal feels that their involvement is warranted. And there are examples of how that would, what that would look like. If we move forward with this, we definitely have some work to do in terms of communicating with the community about what an SRO is and what they can and can't do, what the role will look like. It's going to be an evolving situation, obviously, but it's something that we have a responsibility to, and it's delineated in the MOU that we have need to have a mechanism for the community to provide feedback about the position, about the SRO individually, and about the interactions if we
That's moot if we don't approve the SRO
Correct.
position.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if we move forward, then these are some of the responsibilities according to the MOU that we would have. So there would also be regular meetings between the SRO and the administrative team, and monthly meetings, I believe, is what was specified, and then the Patricia would be involved with the annual review. Sorry, losing my words here. Other comments or? All right, so we have a lot to think about. We are open to more feedback from the community. I have to apologize that I did not think to ask the superintendent to specifically reach out to the staff for feedback until it was too late in the process, and so we would welcome any feedback that staff members would have, and I appreciate the staff who came today to give us some comments. Okay, so seeing no other comments, I'm going to close this discussion and we'll move on to the personnel update.
In your packets, you have the staff changes document for this month. I'd like to point out, boy, this kind of was the error meeting. I'll blame it on July, where it says as of 7/1, that should say as of 7/18/23. My apologies. So this is a brand new sheet, brand new fiscal year, brand new sheet, all kinds of changes. We have some postings out there. We got, there will be more changes, right? This is the season. And unfortunately, changes happen right up to the opening of school. It's just the way things work. And, people call me to say, I'm going to be leaving. I'm so sorry. You know what? Everybody needs to seek their dream, Each of us is an independent economic agent, and we need to do what's best for ourselves and our families. And so we figure it out, but everybody's got to do what works best for them. So we are fortunate, we get people at the end of, we got a fantastic hire last summer at the end of the summer. We got that great hire, and some other poor district lost somebody when we got them, right? And they had to scramble to find somebody. So it's not fun, but I feel oddly relaxed about it. Like, this is part of the job, this is part of the scene, and we'll figure it out. So you have there the changes. I would like to request of the school committee your permission to, when we share this each month, moving forward, share only the changes from that month. The document gets a little unwieldy, and so if your desire is to see, hey, what changes have there been, then next month I would bring you the changes that have taken place as of 2 days ago. Is that good? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
I do have a couple of questions.
Yes.
What are we doing about chorus that has no replacement needed?
We had so few students. Jordan, do you remember the number?
Oh gosh, I think maybe it's like 6 overall.
Oh, I thought it was even lower.
It could have been. It could have been.
We didn't have the numbers, Karen. Okay. And we have a brand new full year music class called Electronic Music Production, right? And kids are going to get to have band or chorus every day all year. So not chorus, sorry. They're going to get to have band all year, every day. So there are some important good changes. That's a sad thing, but kids have lots of access to good music instruction.
And one other point is even if there were loads of kids, Eric was going to cover that. Eric Weller, our fantastic band teacher. So he it's in no way being foisted on him. He came and discussed how he really wanted to be involved in that as well, and it would have fit into his schedule, but ultimately there weren't any takers. So going forward, my anticipation would be that even if there are a bunch of students interested, Eric would work with the kids.
Will there only be one middle school math teacher? Because this says course math, no replacement needed.
There is no. You say.
Yeah, sure. So there will be essentially 1.5, not literally 1.5 middle school math teachers, because Danica Tominski is joining us.
A whole person.
One whole person, right. It's not mad. So one is Danica. So Danica is moving here from BES and is going to teach math. And then the math allocation is such that to hire another full-time person, they would teach. It's actually a really great idea. 8th and 9th grade math. So that will allow them to foster that relationship for 2 years, and so that's what we're hoping to find, is someone that can teach 8th and 9th grade math. Danica would do 7th, and then our existing staff member will continue to teach high school math. And part of the changes for not needing as many people is that with all of the wonderful course design that we've had, Kathy Mulch's finance course is so popular, and there are so many students that are taking that as their math that there's just less students to go around. So we have the great problem of having some teachers who are just so popular when they decide to design a new course, people flock to them, which is wonderful.
That's good.
I just want to note it's pretty great that although you're losing 7 people from their current positions, they're staying within the organization and growing within, and that's really important.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your noticing that, Gretchen.
So on that note.
They should get a special call.
They should. They totally should. Yeah.
Where did Ellen Beeler come from? It says new assignment.
Oh, Ellen. Sorry, Renee. I'm sorry, my friend. Ellen comes from Pearl Roads and then BES. And she's going over. We have lost the brilliant Ashley Fogel. We have lost the brilliant Ashley Fogel. I have not even answered her email because my heart is, I have not gotten the words together to respond to it. She knows. It's all good. She's teaching ESY, but she's got a great opportunity. She got a great opportunity. We love her and we wish her well.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And Ellen Beeler, who is just a marvelous colleague, human being, woman, mother. She's going to go over to NES.
She was working.
Yeah, at
in
BES.
kindergarten? Now you have one. Okay, I should know that, but.
No, Karen, these numbers
Change the
fluctuate.
year.
We're going to have 2 pre-Ks at NES this year.
Oh.
And we didn't have 2 pre-Ks at NES.
Nice.
We had, yeah,
Mhm.
so.
Okay.
Any other questions about the staff changes?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So before we move into executive session, so that we can make the motion so that we will not return to the open session, I'd like to invite other business. Does anyone have other business? And
The only thing I wanted to say is that you did say at the beginning that before we went in, before we closed out, there'd be more time for comments. And so I don't know
Yes.
if that was what you were getting at.
so that was my next thing to say, is that we do have some more citizens' comments. So I'd like to invite Mary up to speak at this time. No, thank you.
Oh,
It's good to make sure we don't leave you hanging, just so you don't have to sit through the executive session to wait to speak.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you. My name is Mary Bowen. I'm a Northfield resident and small business owner. I live on Burnham Road. And I'm sorry, but on the PVRS website, it said 7 p.m.
Oh.
So I apologize.
This is, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I came. I was like, how did everybody get to speak? What's going on? I thought I was here at 5.
Thank you
after,
for
so.
staying through all of that boring business.
Absolutely. I wrote a little something just so I wouldn't ramble and not take up any more of your time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on the RSO subject tonight. I'm passionate about this subject because an RSO officer at PVRS saved my son from potential self-harm. My son entered into Pioneer in his 7.5 year of school, and it was not an easy landing as we relocated from the West Coast to here. And my son's peers here were not very welcoming, but he quickly found support within the school from the teachers, the staff, and most importantly, the RSO officer that was employed at that time. The RSO officer recognized that my son was alone in the hallways, in the library, in the cafeteria, and outside. And this officer created a bond that no other person wanted to at that time or had the time to. All right. And so he listened, he advised, and he protected him. And as I myself entered into the PVRS school system as a substitute teacher, I personally witnessed this officer extend the same courtesy, compassion, humor, and voice to many, many other students. My point is that I saw this RSO officer as a friend to the students and not as a threat. He was a person that picked up on situations that our precious teachers could not do due to their lack of time taken away from teaching. I know that RSO's officers do not come in tactical gear. They don't come waving weapons, and the uniform is not that of a street police officer, but rather toned down khaki pants and a polo t-shirt. And as an employee of the school, essentially, fitting in as such. As another adult in the school, helping to protect the children from each other and from themselves. I personally feel that the only people that would think an RSO officer as a threat would be that those who are troubled individuals and those who are looking for trouble. For me, an RSO officer allows valuable and precious time for the teachers to teach, for the psychologists and the counselors to continue their psychology and counseling, and for students to be free and comfortable in what is now, unfortunately, a troubling and scary time in our lives. And in the nutshell, Pioneer Regional Valley School is not an inner city school. It's not Chicago, it's not Los Angeles, and it's certainly not New York. There's not metal detectors, we're not searching their backpacks, as my son experienced throughout his early educational life on the West Coast. But that's all I want to say. That's it.
Thank you.
And thank you again for all
Thank
that
you.
you do and your time.
Thank you, Mary.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. I think so. Sarah, you were just observing? Okay, thank you. Wanted to make sure we didn't overlook. All right. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 211A, Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the PVREA and the PVASP if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, which I do, and we will not be returning to open session.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All right. And we do need to do a roll call vote for this one. So, Steve, you want to start off the voting?
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
And Michelle?
Our mics are on anymore.
Michelle Geruso, yes. And Raina Dastu, yes. Great. All right. So we will move along.
Just for clarity, do you want folks to reach out to school committee members specific because of the short timeline, like how?
Yeah, email. Yeah, do you want to email or, yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'll get the word out to other